Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this presentation. My name is Gary Doernhoefer. I'm the founder of ADR Notable, which is a cloud-based software platform designed specifically to simplify the administrative tasks for mediators. The discussion that follows really has two purposes. One, we're intending to help mediators to better understand the terminology and the processes of mortgage foreclosures. And two, recognizing that one of the key skills for mediators is empathy. We will present this information from the perspective of the mortgage borrower. And to help us with that, we have Mark Easterling, who is a HUD-certified housing counselor. And I want to especially thank Stephen Torcell, who's the executive director of Homes on the Hill, which is a nonprofit organization in Columbus, Ohio, whose mission is to strengthen neighborhoods by providing quality, affordable housing, advocacy, education, and supportive services to individuals and families of primarily low to moderate incomes. And Mark Easterling is currently one of the counselors at Homes on the Hill. So welcome, Mark. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Gary. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and it's a pleasure to get some of the aspects of housing counseling out to individuals who are looking for a little deeper knowledge about it.
So let's start out with that, Mark. Tell us a little bit more about housing counseling. What is it? What do you do?
Yeah, overall, housing counseling at our agency encompasses several types of counseling. Mortgage or foreclosure prevention counseling is one of them, as well as pre-purchase home buyer counseling. We also hold pre-purchase workshops. We also do rental counseling, and those are the primary housing counselings that people typically know. Another aspect that we've started in the last few years is financial capability, where I'll work with someone who may have a very low credit score. They're very challenged in their credit report with a number of issues. And we just look at a long-term framework of how we can help them raise their credit score with an action plan, and also get them thinking about becoming banked and setting up a savings account, and getting some emergency funds available, things like that. But at the forefront, certainly, of what I've done in my career has been mortgage or foreclosure prevention counseling.
Got it. Let's talk a little bit more about your background. How long have you been doing this?
I have been working at Homes on the Hill since, I've been conducting housing counseling since 2008. I was helping Steve with some development of properties in the Hilltop, and he came to me one day and he said, things are melting down and we need some rapid assistance to help homeowners in Central Ohio. And so as our organization got the backing of many partners, we were able to immediately start with the financial crisis of 2008, and been doing it ever since.
Terrific. Okay, so let's focus for a minute on the homeowners and the borrowers in this situation. Can you give us just a general description of who are they, where do they come from, and what do they look like when they come to you?
Well, when they come in, they share many things in common. One is this is really the first time in their life that they've been met with such a large financial chaos event in their life, and they're not sure where to turn. They're getting a lot of advice from the person who is in line behind them at the grocery, to several uncles, to siblings that are telling them sometimes competing information about what they should do and who they should talk to. So sometimes really the first part of my conversation with a homeowner is kind of weeding through, okay, what do you think? What do you know? and let me kind of get you on some solid footing with some accurate information. They are very emotional. Many times, many of the homeowners that I see and talk to are people who are kind of first generation homeowners within their families. And that comes with it a lot of pride. They worked very hard to get their house and they don't want to give it up. Many people also have inherited properties from their grandparents or their parents, and they feel the burden or the weight of, I'm going to let my whole family down if I can't see this through. So that they come from all economic walks of life. Here locally, I have worked with people who may be unemployed and have zero income, to someone who's experienced a divorce, but they still have very solid income. They're just trying to keep their kids in a stable environment and in the same school, and they don't want to lose their house. So the foreclosure crises that we've worked with, they know no boundaries as far as who it could potentially touch.
Great. Okay, let's talk a little bit about, as you go into a mortgage foreclosure context, let's talk about who the parties are. Who do you have to deal with when you are engaged with, from a borrower's perspective, in a foreclosure context?
Sure. It certainly starts with, okay, who do you send your mortgage payments to? Many times then that's the entity that provides them with their mortgage statement. It's also known as their loan servicer. It can be the same entity that owns the loan, although that's becoming much less of a true statement. And certainly then the homeowner, and sometimes there are non-occupying co-borrowers, maybe a mom or a dad or a brother or sister have come on to the note. They don't live at the house, but when the loan was approved, they helped with credit and income. And then certainly one of the top causes of foreclosure issues is divorce. And so many times we don't have the spouse who has left the home, but they're still on the note. And we certainly want to try and find out, where are they? Are they providing any financial support back into the home? Those types of issues kind of need to be dealt with. But those are the primary players. And of course, then if they have been filed on for foreclosure, there's actually been a filing, their county court system is another player.
Right. And do you have the context sometimes, I assume, of their dependence in the home, which may be contributing to the stress level that you mentioned a minute ago, right?
Yes. One thing in particular that is really tough is as families engage in a community and their kids go to school, sometimes kids have special needs and they've developed bonds with teachers in particular schools. And it is just imperative for the overall health of the children or that particular child to continue to engage where they're getting great resources, and something that the parents are unable to provide for or find within their home. And that puts a lot of stress. The parents are starting to think, where are we going to go if we can't keep this house? If we have to sell it or if we lose it, where are we going to go to perhaps find the other great resources that we're finding within our school district?
Right. Yeah. So it sounds like, I mean, we have stress factors, we have pride of ownership, pride perhaps of a legacy family home. We have the stability of the family members, in particular children, and all these things are playing beneath the surface from the homeowner's perspective, right?
Indeed. I keep a open box of Kleenex on my desk, and there's a backup behind me as well. So that's one thing that I've learned as a counselor. Sometimes it just maybe a statement that I make or something that they say. They've held it up very well while they've driven to my location, while they've waited to see me, while they've completed some intake paperwork. But then once we're in my office with the door closed, there are a lot of emotions that spill out. You cannot underscore the sense and fabric of community that this house has provided for a family. It really it's something that continues to drive our home ownership levels, and continues to be something why I see so many people who are renting really desire a house of their own.
Yeah. So one of the things, Mark, that I've come across in talking to a lot of people about this is there seems to be a complete consensus from every perspective that an educated borrower is, that's in everyone's best interest, whether it's the borrower themselves, the lender, loan servicer, court system, and everything moves more smoothly if you can bring that borrower up the curve and understand their position and their options a little bit better. So tell me about, how available is housing or mortgage counseling is in your experience? I mean, outside of what you provide, of course, are you reaching as many people as possible, or could there always be more? Are there a lot of people you think go through the system with no education or no backup like you provide?
Yeah, certainly. When at the height of the crisis years, and really that was 2008 through about 2014 here in Central Ohio, certainly agencies like ours were well funded, and there were a number of counselors, not as many today. So I would say that many borrowers may be able to handle this on their own with a representative from the servicer who can help them on their path. But of course, I'd like to think that coming in and talking to me and the previous formal mediation programs that were set up did require visiting a HUD-approved housing counseling agency. So if something like that were to happen again, I would hope that people could be directed before a mediation appointment to sit down with me for free and really start to dig into their mortgage, what type of mortgage they have, and what are their potential options that they have.
So, I mean, what I think I'm hearing, and what I expected to hear, I guess, was that there is a real role for mortgage counseling, even in the mediation process. And that's the homework, basically. It's getting the homeowner in a better position to participate in the mediation session itself.
Oh, absolutely. If one of my homeowners were to attend a mediation session in the court in their county, we have already discussed a lot of things that they're going to encounter. But first off, in their meeting with me, we are looking at their budget. We are completing the borrower assistance packages from their lender. Sometimes the attorney firm will also send their clients' assistance information directly to the homeowner as well. And we've got that packet completed, and they know this is what I can afford. This is my new job. Here are my new pay stubs. And we've discussed, again, their type of loan, what that type of loan options are made available for them from the servicer, how their package is going to be viewed or looked at for potential tools in a toolbox that, say, a Huntington or a Chase has, that underwriter has to say, yes, I can approve this particular homeowner for a loan modification because these are the things that I'm seeing that will cause me to say they're sustainable. Now that they've kind of overcome an issue, they can sustain a mortgage payment moving forward. That's what we want to convey right off the bat in a potential mediation situation is, hey, we've sent a package to the servicer. We may have even emailed a package to the attorney of record on the foreclosure filing, but here's another one right here that I can give to the mediator or the attorney. And that was one of the great things in the previous formal mediation situations in the past. That mediation helped give us a pause to where documentation could properly be analyzed. And that was a huge benefit for the homeowner.
Right. I've heard also that, for the mediators to be thoughtful about not having a session all set up and ready to go without this preliminary work being done, because all you end up doing is sort of, you meet for a few minutes and make some homework assignments, and everybody has to go back and actually get this information, or the bank needs to actually analyze the information that maybe the homeowner's already sent. So you can do that without calling all the parties together in one room, right? You can make sure that that work gets done. So
Yes.
I want to go into that a little bit, because I have heard about that problem in the past, that a mediation session would be scheduled and called, and basically all you would end up is with a bunch of homework assignments and nothing much more is getting done. So let's dig into this a little bit more. Can you be a little more specific about the information to be gathered by the homeowner? Like, let's start with, for instance, just the type of mortgage. Give us a sense of the types of mortgages that might be out there.
Yeah, one of the most popular mortgages that is serviced in the United States are the government-backed mortgages. Those would be the FHA mortgage on what people typically refer to as a government-backed mortgage. But conventional mortgages also have two large government-sponsored investors, and they are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So Fannie and Freddie and FHA are terms that are utilized quite a bit in mortgage discussion, but it's important to know what type of mortgage you have, especially if you have one of the three government-backed loans. Those typically have more tools in their toolkit that would allow a homeowner to come to a modification if they can show that, again, they can sustain a new mortgage payment with a little bit of help with their interest rate and maybe the balance that is delinquent.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Other types of mortgages are mortgages that were originated by a bank and were never sold or invested by another entity. Those loans are closely held, and underwriters at smaller banks or regional banks have a lot of leeway sometimes in being able to make a new proposition for mortgage terms, or to modify something that would truly help keep a borrower in their home.
Got it. So I think just to kind of restate what you think I just heard you say, there are a number of government loan programs like FHA, Federal Housing Administration. There's some other that are a little more fringe that I've looked into. There's a Department of Veteran Affairs that has a home loan program, Rural Housing Service, and even the United States Department of Agriculture has a excellent loan servicing. And then there's conventional loans, and there's loans that are held by maybe a local bank. And your point, I think, to make sure I'm saying it, is each of these things, either in the regulations that relate to that particular type of loan, or in just the discretion of a local bank, each of these different loan types are going to have some different alternatives for how to get a borrower out of trouble. And it's important
Yeah.
just to know there's a range of options, right?
Yes, they will have some nuances to them, and the homeowner may not completely know or understand. You got to remember, maybe 8 to 10 years previously, their goal was to own a home and to win a bid, and a loan officer set them up with a loan that they could uh, thrive in and continue to make payments on without knowing things were going to turn out the way they suddenly have. So for all of that time, they really haven't thought of, hey, is my loan currently held in a Wall Street securitized asset that is being traded? Or I'm not sure if I had an FHA loan or not. Those closing documents have been collecting dust somewhere for a long time, and I have had to blow the dust off of some closing packages that homeowners have brought me, and that's okay, because it's just typically not something you talk about at the dinner table every night. But when the time comes where you do have to seek help, you do want to know your mortgage type, and you will get some sense, usually from the servicer initially, after a package is submitted. Here is the way or the path that, now that you've shown me that you can sustain a mortgage payment going forward, that we can either adjust your interest rate, expand the term of your loan. Many times, especially with the government-backed loans, the FHA, Fannie Freddie, and the VA as well, they can extend the loan term back out for a homeowner, which really helps reduce the payment or get the payment back to where they were if they have been delinquent quite a few months.
Right. So let's talk about the
Yeah.
delinquency. Let's go into kind of some more of these details that you got to get out on the table before you can have a good conversation. So you mentioned how long the loan was. So, one of the things I think we want to make sure we know is it a 15, 20-year, 30-year mortgage? And then just some of the details around how much was borrowed, what's the interest rate? Is it fixed or variable? I mean, these are all the kinds of bits and pieces that have to kind of get out on the table so everybody's looking at the same set of facts. Is that right?
Yes, and in particular, those are the kinds of educational aspects that I want my borrowers to be able to walk into a mediation session or with anyone and state that their type of loan, what their interest rate is, how much they're delinquent, how many months, how many number of payments, what their current loan term is, how much loan term is left that they would have to pay. And, for example, someone who had a higher interest rate from a previous economic time and had been paying on their mortgage for a number of years, say 10 to 12 to 15 years on a 30-year, they've got a better opportunity for modification. When the servicer underwriter starts to put tools onto assisting them, there's some easier help to perhaps get them a lower payment even, as opposed to someone who, if I see them and they've owned the home for 12 months, especially today, they may have a very low interest rate and not much time involved in paying on their loan. That's going to reduce the opportunity or the tools that the servicer would have to help them. Those are much tougher fixes.
So what we've been talking about is sort of the basic facts of the loan. And my sense is that it's important to make sure when everybody gets started in mediation that everybody's in agreement on those basic facts. I mean, what kind of loan is it? What's the interest rate? How many months have been missed, et cetera? What was the monthly payment and that was being paid? I mean, that should be an easy ground, or really a necessary ground, to make sure there is consensus around before you can get moving forward. Is
That is true. I can tell you in my experience, there were very few, probably less than I could count on one hand, of foreclosure issues where there was a true error, if you will, that kind of preceded involving talking about getting a modification where other aspects of the filing had to be dealt with. In other words, who the actual borrowers or the actual defendants were. When that foreclosure filing is made in Central Ohio, with Ohio being a judicial state, there's really not much, if anything, to quibble about as far as a filing. That the amount that's owed, and indeed the interest rate and the terms are have been set in the filing. We're just really kind of moving on to the next step of, okay, how can you get some assistance, and is there potential for you to show that with some modification help, you can get back on track to making on-time payments?
right. So that kind of leads to the next thing. What does the borrower, outside of the loan terms, what does the borrower need to go do for homework in order to get into this?
Yeah, the borrower really needs to run down actual copies of pay stubs. Sometimes we run into situations where borrowers work for very small entities that don't produce a pay stub that looks like, say, an ADP pay stub. And the servicers typically have some difficulty in processing those because it is something that may be handwritten, or we don't have all of them in consecutive order. That's certainly something. The pay stubs are really key as the first start of your homework. I've got to have 2 months at least of consecutive pay stubs that someone can view and know exactly this is how much you're earning. And that's for everyone earning in the home. And we want to be able to count all the income. The more income that you have, the better you're going to be able to show that you can sustain this. And of course, then tax returns. 2 years of previous tax returns are usually key, and most homeowners can provide that. Bank statements are another key document that an underwriter is going to want to track monies that flow in and flow out of an individual's bank account. And again, to track that income is very important. So those are the three primary documents that we really want to have. And I would not ever want to not have a homeowner have those documents ready for a mediation session, or to, again, put a package together to have someone else view it.
Yeah. And what about, do you encourage them to do more of a personal budget too around other expenses that maybe, they may have student loans, or they may have other things, information about whether they've ever filed a personal bankruptcy or even have one pending, that nobody, they didn't think to mention, kind of problem, or other things like that. What else do you need to know?
Yes, we've pulled the credit report at our appointment, and that goes a long way into completing the budget section of a servicer's borrower assistance package. There's a page in every packet that wants an outline that is very specific to a household, and it has quite a number of categories. The underwriters want to know, what are you paying for your cable service, on top of auto loans, and credit cards, and any other installment loans that someone may have. They want to know your utility expenses. It's it's a rigorous budget overview, and we've done that at the appointment where I've worked with them.
Yeah, and I gather for the most part you deal with people who are interested in staying in their homes. But I mean, do you ever have people who say, you know, this is an opportunity for me. This home's too big, and we'd like to downsize or things like that. So do you ever have to make sure you understand what their objective is, you know, sort of going in?
Yes, early on in my career, I did find that occasionally I was fighting for them to keep a home that they necessarily didn't want to stay in, and they were willing to transition out. And so at this time, you know, what does the foreclosure then bring to their household for transitioning? And many times they've made an agreement with the servicer or with the attorney firm representing the servicer to keep the utilities on, especially in Central Ohio, through a winter season. And the attorney and I are able to give them a better roadmap to, this is when the additional motions will be filed. This is when we think the actual sheriff's sale date will be. This is when you really would have to move on. But that has helped a number of households to remain engaged with the attorney firm to transition out very gracefully. That does happen.
Yeah. What about what's the impact of, let's say there's a second mortgage on the home or other liens? I mean, do those have to get resolved in this process as well? What happens with other, you know, let me stop for a minute. We talked a little bit about other people being on the loan. So I assume you need to make sure you have the authority, somebody has the authority to act on this, like a restructuring, because those other people have to agree to it as well, right?
Yes, if there's an additional lien on the home, many times we have to do that legwork to reach out to the secondary lien holder to say that, you know, they're willing to subjugate again and allow the first lien to be modified. Many times the second lender will be willing to issue a letter stating that. They also will state, hey, you know, get the first mortgage lien modified first and then come and talk to us. We may be willing to also modify on our end. So many times there are liens that have not been paid on for a very long time. That secondary lender, that second lien holder has not ever filed a foreclosure or brought any action through a court. It may have changed hands a number of times, and so it's kind of laid dormant. But again, that's brought out when I bring a credit report up, and we can kind of do a little archaeological dig on this other lien and know that exists. But then also, when a homeowner brings a copy of their filing into the office with me, they will note a defendant that's listed that they have never heard of. They don't know why they're listed, and we'll uncover that, oh, that's an additional lien that you may have signed on for some work on your property, or it was an additional credit line, a HELOC, or a true second lien that you signed on for some time ago, and it still remains even though you haven't paid it. And so those companies are served as well, and they'll file an answer with the court, but know that, yeah, we're also going to have to deal with that for eventually, you know, helping them keep their home.
Right, right. So you've mentioned a couple times, you know, this packet idea. So if I get the picture here, there is a bundle of information that the homeowner needs to assemble, and then it goes off to their loan servicer or whoever that is, whether it's the bank that's still holding the loan or a servicing company or the lender directly sometimes. Then what happens? What can you give us as much as you know from the other side of the table, kind of, what's happening on the lender side?
Yeah, the one thing that I would want homeowners to be aware of is if we're in crisis time, these timelines are much more delayed than, say, what's happening currently today. But typically, a servicer has 30 days to receive the documents upon their first review of this packet that includes all of those documents that we were talking about earlier, and then any other documents that we think are for the good of the cause to show that the homeowner has overcome their hardship. The underwriter may ask for some additional documents after that first review. So there's a little bit of a give and take of documentation. Again, when we were in crisis mode, that's when having a mediator and an attorney who were part of this attempt to save a home helped funnel documents into a very busy organization and allowed an underwriter to get a review done and get an answer much quicker. Sometimes they'll send a letter back and say, hey, you have what's called a facially complete package, and that's an important term. That's what myself and the homeowner love to see, is that letter that says, you're facially complete. We are not asking for any more documents. We've got 30 days now from facially complete documentation situation to review it and give you an answer. They may ask for something in that process, but usually not. It just means we're ready and awaiting a decision. Yes, we can work with you, modify your loan terms to help you stay in the home, or no, you just don't show sustainability. You might want to look at another option to deal with your home.
Got it. And what can you give us just a broad sense of what are the key factors that you think that the lender's looking for when they're trying to go through this packet and make some decisions?
It's much like buying your home all over again. They really want to see income drives the show, if you will. If you have overcome a hardship, which typically has been income loss out of the house, you've replaced that income, and maybe you're now working 2 jobs. But it's showing that I've overcome whatever the hardship was. I was off work for a while because of health issues. Guess what? Here's my evidence through my pay stubs that I'm back now to 40 hours a week. And if you can grant me a modification, I can sustain payments again like I did before. So really it was, in working with my homeowners, it's in detailing to a servicer that hardship letter, we want to outline what the hardship was, what has caused the issues, what I've done to overcome. And in this package, you're going to find evidence that I can now sustain again. So underwriters, the servicers want to see, income. Prove it to me that you can continue on, because we really aren't in the business to get your house back. That is that's a myth that many homeowners come into the office with, and they say, because I live in this particular zip code, or because times are really good now, and they can make money by getting and selling my house, they're not going to give me a fair shake or a fair review. That's just not the case. the mortgage lending system is not set up to where servicers and owners of mortgages also want to deal with a lot of property that they have to sell. It's just not true.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. I mean, you do get the sense when even from me looking into this from relatively recently, that there almost always is a shared interest at the outset between the parties in figuring a way, finding a way for this loan to be producing again, an effective loan, and to keep the current homeowner in the house. And as I think, as you say, it's because obviously the homeowner has a desire to stay in that, and presumably has a desire to stay in the house. But even from the lender's perspective, they're just not good at owning, foreclosing, owning, reselling, managing all these properties. They would far prefer to find a way not to have to do that. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes. It's why they established their business in the first place, was to collect a money stream that they could benefit from and continue that stream over a long period of time. And they aren't, there's no one sitting around who's trying to identify anyone who is delinquent or starting to become delinquent on their home to take notice and say, hey, we've got a chance to get this particular address back. They just, it's just not happening. But it did become quite a pervasive idea for so many homeowners that I met with, that a servicer is out to get me.
Yeah. So one of the things that is interesting to me is that, as you mentioned, there are all these different programs that have different components to help, whether it's in the regulations around federal loans. Sometimes there are even state and local mitigation programs, particularly during hard times, that get established. The question I have is sort of, how do those get into the mediation? Because even no matter how much education we do here with mediators, they're never going to know all of those programs. But it sounds like it's in the best interests of the lender to know what those programs are. Is that?
Oh yes. The servicers, underwriters are highly trained with the tools and protocols that they can utilize to help someone in a particular hardship situation. If that particular hardship goes outside the bounds of those guidelines, they may not be able to help that homeowner. But it's not for a thorough review by them, but the servicer needs access to that borrower's current financial state. And that's the role that I want to play, is that I give them the most up-to-date current financial snapshot with supporting documents so that they can review the homeowner. But we've had a few fights along the way where I have scratched my head and I've wondered, why in the world can't you help this particular borrower? And we've asked for an appeal or a review, and some we have won, and some we just continue to lose. There's either not enough income, or there's something else that creates a situation whereby we're just not going to be able to help this homeowner stay in.
Yeah. So I want to take a little bit of a deeper dive into what's possible. What's the range of possibilities here? So, I mean, you've talked about loan modification, but I've also read about forbearance programs, or reinstatement or repayment plans. Can you tell me a little bit, just from a high level, what are some of the options, all I would say under the category of loan modification? What do some of those sound like or look like?
Yeah, a typical modification is any one of your mortgage terms that gets adjusted and reworked, that a new instrument, if you will, a new financial instrument is generated that is called a loan modification agreement, that is signed by the servicer and the homeowner, that adjusts how much they owe and their interest rate or loan term. Any one of those factors, once it's adjusted, that becomes the modification, as long as it leads to an outcome that the homeowner wants to sign on. That's our goal. Forbearances are usually given prior to we reach a point of greater than 120 days past due, because a forbearance is more easily dealt with when you're looking at less than 4 months of payments being missed. That forbearance is a tool that can allow a homeowner to not enter down the road of a foreclosure filing. It's best geared for people who have a hardship that's temporary and that they know is temporary, and again can prove that once this hardship ends, I can get back to making the mortgage payment again. So early detection of a hardship helps a forbearance. Once a forbearance ends, then typically a servicer is looking to do a couple of things. We either need to modify because we're dealing with 3 or 6 months of forbearance payments that haven't been made. So now you do have to be ready to say, I've overcome my hardship, I can get modified and we can move on. Or yes, I now have an ability to obtain funds to pay those payments, those back forbearance payments that the servicer was saying, we're going to forbear taking any additional steps, especially down the road towards foreclosure, to allow you to get into a shorter term agreement. Repayment agreements are a popular one with me if it's a homeowner who can fall back on additional funds that they can seek out of an investment vehicle like a 401k, or gift funds from a relative. That can help, where we can make a couple of payments and put a large chunk of the delinquency back to the servicer in agreement for future months are going to be a little higher by spreading the rest of the delinquency over, typically they don't like to go longer than 6 to 8 months on a repayment agreement, because the payments are higher than usual. But again, it's a chance to save my house. And if I can borrow and get into a repayment agreement and I can show that I can handle a little higher payment, it's very popular, and it staves off headed down that road to foreclosure.
Right. That's great. Okay, so I want to turn now to, there are some options even if the homeowner's not going to stay in the home, right? They're going to have to leave. I think I've heard this referred to as graceful exit strategies. And some of the phrases I've seen are short sale, cash for keys, deed in lieu, or ultimately just letting the court process roll out and complete a full foreclosure. But I think you described that earlier, where you can provide some more information and keep the homeowner well informed. Can you just go through some of these other ideas, like a short sale or cash for keys or deed in lieu, and just describe what those are?
Short sale involves obtaining a real estate agent, and the real estate agent would then work with the servicer's short sale department. We're kind of moving now down the hallway into a different department at the servicer's office. And we're I've kind of turned the homeowner over to a real estate agent who is supplying documentation about the house and what they can particularly list the home at. And some servicers prefer that the short sale is kind of pre-approved first before any buyers are brought in. Other servicers say, hey, once you have a potential buyer and an offer on the home, bring it to us, let us review it, and we'll see if it's high enough to allow for us to say, yes, we'll allow you to sell the home short of what you owe, and we will move on from there. We won't continue on the foreclosure track. That time frame will be suspended, and will allow you some time to list and sell the home and complete that.
Yeah, and it's a short sale, just to be clear, is that it's stopping the foreclosure in order to allow the homeowner to just sell the house.
Yes.
Instead of having a foreclosure continue. And it's referred to as a short sale because it often occurs with the new buyer bringing money to the table that is less than what the current owner owes on their loan.
Yes, we're allowing you to sell the home short of the total amount that is owed.
And it may or may not just terminate the loan obligation, right? So does it always release the borrower from the full loan obligation when it's a short sale?
I can only really speak for Ohio and,
Right.
and our judicial processes. That usually the agreement in a short sale is you are not physically going to continue on and try and recoup the amount that was owed on the home.
Yeah.
Sometimes in the past years, we've had financial legislation that went the additional step to say that homeowners were not involved in having to deal with this amount as well on a tax basis. They've not had to claim it as income on their tax returns.
Got it. Okay. And then cash for keys, which, as best I understand, is sort of when there is equity in the home, but the homeowner is decided that they're behind at the moment in their payments and they don't want to stay in the house. This is an option. And you want to try and describe for us a little bit what cash for keys is?
Yeah, that's a situation where a homeowner is offered a predetermined amount that a servicer will give them to, again, say within a certain period of time, you're going to exit the home. It's going to need to be broom swept. There can be no damages to the home before we give you your cash in exchange for the keys on the kitchen table, so to speak. We'll inspect the home and make sure that the asset that we're getting back, it has been taken care of by you, and we will we'll move forward.
And then a deed in lieu. How's a deed in lieu of?
Deed in lieu is where there's that's a transaction that takes place at a title company where if the servicer and more particularly, this is where the owner of the mortgage comes in. Do they have a particular interest in just creating a new deed that someone would sign at a title company that would deed the property back, all of the interest back to a particular entity, usually the entity that owns the mortgage would just get that done. In my humble 12-year career now, Gary, I can tell you I've not seen many deed in lieus conducted here in Central Ohio. It's not something that I could count on one hand.
Right. And what's the impact on the borrower, particularly their credit rating, as you go through these different scenarios? I think, starting on one extreme where they can do a pretty simple modification and everything goes forward, to the other end of the spectrum where they just sit back and suffer the full foreclosure process. Talk about the impact on the borrower and the rest of their life afterward as well.
Yeah, really, you got to stop and think a little bit about when all of these scenarios that we're discussing involved a missed mortgage payment or multiple missed mortgage payments. As soon as that starts to happen, your credit report is affected by that, and your score is going to drop, and it's going to drop dramatically. The FICO credit model dislikes missed mortgage payments over 30-day, over 60, and over 90-day delinquencies are a huge hit to the score. By the time an individual homeowner reaches, say, a foreclosure stage, their credit score has dropped precipitously. So there's not much more that the outcome of the situation can really do to hammer the score down, so to speak. Right. So the bulk of the credit crisis has been done really prior to me seeing them, if they're just coming in at hey, I've received a foreclosure filing. Therefore, credit history really to the homeowner is secondary. It's many times we have a conversation about it's the small fish on the back burner in the small pot. The big fish that's roiling and boiling on the front is, how are we going to help you keep your home? Credit scores can go up, credit scores can go down. But keeping the home and trying to move forward with that is, becomes our biggest key. But each of the models views things such as modifications. They'll put language on a particular trade line for a mortgage that says this mortgage was modified under terms provided by their lender. That's on there. The credit model is going to take that into account a little bit, but the model loves, after they're modified, on-time payments being made. That's going to help their score, come back up.
Yeah, right. Okay.
What affects a borrower more so maybe than credit score is if you go through a foreclosure and or a short sale and you want to own again, then your next lender is going to be the one who will offer you your next mortgage product and say, you have to have now had your score rise back to this point where I can give you a new mortgage. And it's typically got to be, depending on the mortgage type, it has to be at least 24 months. The majority of mortgages and situations are 36 months past a previous event where you've lost a home.
Got it. Yeah. So when you and I spoke about this, before getting on the Zoom call, one of the things that came across, I think, from you very strongly was, in this situation, and in particular as you go into a mediation, there is a pretty serious, what mediators would refer to as power imbalance between the bank, lender, servicer, whoever that is, probably represented by counsel, and the homeowner. You were pretty passionate about this, so can you give us give us all now, sort of share with everybody what you shared with me about that issue.
Again, this is from my perspective of hundreds, if not 1,000 or so homeowners that I worked with in the crisis and have continued to work with post-crisis. But You know, the one thing that I tried to do was take that homeowner who had just gone through a half a box of my tissue to get them turned around to saying, okay, we've got an opportunity for mediation, and we've got a chance to get your documents, your current financial portfolio back in front of your servicer. And, you know, there's a lot of craziness going on right now, but I want you to focus and know that you're in a fight, almost a street fight. And we want you to know all of that information about your loan, know everything that's in that package, know your hardship reason, and know why and how you're able to overcome it. And I also let them know, hey, you've never entered into this building. You've never gone to the courthouse before, and know that it's an overwhelming environment for you right from the start. From the moment you walk in and you go through the scanners, you're on a field that the opposing attorney, that's their field. That's where they work every day. And my homeowner, it's a foreign environment. They're almost, I refer to them as, you're the visiting team coming to the field. But, you know, here are the rules that are set up. And many times I'll get stories back from the homeowners to say, you know, you were kind of right, Mark. I noticed right away when the mediator and the attorney were really, you know, they were very chummy right from the start. It was almost as if I wasn't in the room. They were very collegial. They were discussing who they knew at certain firms, who they had worked with before, where they went to law school, if it's a mediator with a legal background. And it really, you know, set me back that, yeah, this process is not going to work for me. I can see that. Even though we may have obtained some positive outcomes for people, it was just that impression that the homeowners got that, yeah, I'm really not part of this. This is not my world, and I might not have my best interests in mind being here.
Yeah, all of which is a really good argument for getting out of certainly the courtroom and into a mediation setting, which is a little bit better playing field, shall we say, than the court process. I want to talk a little bit more too about, you know, some of these shared interests. We've talked about the lender not wanting to own the home and deal with the maintenance on it and a resale and all of that. But you know, just some of the other things I just want to make sure we think about is that, you know, processes at the court can be slow. Now, maybe that can be to the benefit of the homeowner, but maybe not, because it's a period of extended, stressful, you know, uncertainty. There's court costs. There's, you know, and there are other aspects that, I mean, can you just elaborate, if I haven't hit them all, on you know, why should the parties be thinking mediation rather than the court process? What are the benefits you think of getting it out of a courtroom for everybody?
Yes, Ohio being a judicial state, it certainly does allow for us here in Franklin County opportunities along the way for a homeowner to try and save their home. When there's mediation that's been granted to a homeowner, I always viewed that as an opportunity to extend the timeline. It's very beneficial for a homeowner to have an ability to engage in maybe a servicer that's just overcome with paperwork from thousands of borrowers. And it does provide that line many times through the attorney firm to their client, the loan servicer, that a homeowner otherwise wouldn't receive. So it has that as its biggest benefit. The timeline, again, even after, say, a homeowner makes an attempt to get an outcome that allows them to keep their home, if that's denied, we still have some time. We still have those contacts, maybe with the attorney firm or the servicer that have come out of the mediation, that if there's still time, if a homeowner's situation changes late in the game, i.e., hey, I just got a new job. Hey, my wife just got a new job, or my husband just got a new job as well. There's more income into our home. Things have really changed. We sold a car. We don't have that car payment anymore, dragging down our budget. These big changes, the servicer is always willing to take another package, as long as we're not very close to the sale date, and there's enough time for them to obtain it and review it. Again, that's something that really shows the servicers do not want this home. They're willing, many times last minute, if that change is something that can put you over in an analysis of your finances to show you can sustain, they'll look at you 11th hour.
Right, right. Listen, Mark, I want to wind this up. This has been just really terrific. I think it's going to be very valuable. You have an amazing depth of experience and knowledge about this, and I really appreciate your sharing it. I'm going to run through just a quick list of what I think are the big takeaways, and then we'll wind this up. So starting with this homeowner, it's stressful. You just got to recognize the amount of stress that's on a homeowner who's in this situation. And the emotions could be pretty serious, pretty intense. Feelings of guilt or failure, they may be amplified if there are dependents in the home, or if it's a family home of multiple generations. The next step, though, for the homeowner is to do their homework. You need to understand what the desired outcome is, what their loan information is, and what their personal financial picture is. And then, very important, is talk to the lender, right? Get the lender involved as early as you can. The more you do that, the better off you're likely to be. And on the lender side, the lender needs to be organized, ready to talk. They need to have had time to look at the information that the homeowner has provided, and be in a position to make a decision. In the mediation itself, I think we've touched on this, but maybe not as clearly as I think it could be important. You got to make certain that the necessary parties are present in the mediation. So that could be, if there are multiple people on the loan, are they all there, or have they granted authority to one person to speak for them, and a modification to the loan they're all going to sign on to. That seems important. Are there other lien holders that got named in the foreclosure case? What's their position? What's their role? And then from the lender side, is the party showing up at the mediation empowered to make the decision for the lender, or are they somebody down farther in the organizational chart, and they don't actually have the authority to do that? That would be kind of a waste of everyone's time. You made the point, I made sure that you had an opportunity to talk about the power imbalance in this situation, that kind of the bank or the lender or the servicer holds all the cards, but that they are motivated to find an appropriate solution, preferably to keep that homeowner in the house, and if not, at least to work toward a graceful exit. And then there are a lot of programs, maybe often some created during hard economic times, to look to help a homeowner in this situation. So it's important for the homeowner to look to their resources. You mentioned maybe other family members where they could get a gift to help them bridge something or to finance a modification. But on the lender side, there are all these other government programs, maybe even state and local, to look to try and find help. And last, just mediation, I think we've proven here, can be an important pathway to a better outcome for all parties here, certainly better than proceeding through a foreclosure matter.
Yes, if there's a homeowner that is at a mediation and they're not as prepared as everyone would like them to be, and they're unaware of any particular programs or monies that are available, Certainly a mediator could refer them to a HUD-approved housing counseling agency in their area. We're usually one of the first organizations who are made aware of any monies that are available, funds to help with mortgage payments or programs to help stave off foreclosures in their area. So that's my plug for HUD-approved housing counseling.
Great. Thanks very much, Mark. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
I enjoyed it. Thanks, Gary.
Good. Good. Take care.
Goodbye.